When you go to set up your Excel workbook file to print, there are certain print options that you need to be aware of so you can get the best output and the best results. We're going to go ahead and take a look at those options here in this video. We have a sample spreadsheet up on the screen before us, and if we note, this sheet that we're looking at is currently the detail sheet of a 3-sheet workbook. We have a summary tab, which I just clicked on, the detail tab, which is where we were, and a sheet 3, which is blank. All right, now if you go to print, first of all, the grid lines that appear within Excel do not print, nor do the column headers, the letters of the alphabet you see across the top, and the row numbers. Those traditionally do not print, but you do have options to print both the grid lines and the column and row headings. Here in this case, you might notice that there are actually borders applied to our data sheet. So although the grid lines will not print in the printed output, the grid lines will. So you'll still see the distinction, between the rows and the columns in the output. But let's take a look where those settings are. We're going to go ahead and go up to the Page Layout tab of the Excel ribbon, and here we have our Page Setup group of icons. I'm going to click the little arrow at the bottom right of that group, which gives me the Page Setup dialog. And let's take a look at the Sheet tab. Notice on the Sheet tab we have a section called Print, and you see you have options to print the grid lines. You can check or uncheck that little checkbox. You can also check to print the row and column headings. We talked in another video on how if you have comments within your sheet, you can include your comments and indicate where you'd like them to appear. So if you want the grid lines to appear in your printed workbook or worksheet, you'd select grid lines. If you want your row and column headings, in other words, the letters of the alphabet across the top and the numbers of the rows going down the left side, this is where you'd select them from the Sheet tab in the Page Setup dialog. All right, now to go to print, assuming everything is fine and we've already checked our print preview and our page break preview and so on, is I'm going to go ahead and click on the Microsoft Office button. I'm going to come down and click on the Print option. In the Print dialog, it'll first specify the printer where you're sending your output to. Make sure you have the right printer selected or designated. You also have this Print Range option. All will be all pages within the specified range, or you can specify specific pages. If you only want the first 5 out of 10 pages, you can indicate the numbers. You can say from whatever page number to whatever page number, 1 through 5, or 5 through 10. You can manually type the numbers in of the pages, or you can use these little spinner arrows to indicate that. I'm going to go back and say all, and I'm going to clear those values out. In most cases, you'll probably be printing all pages. All right, now in the Print What section, this is pretty important as well. The default here is to print out your active sheet or sheets, which would be the sheet or sheets that you currently have at the surface, or that you've most recently worked on and they're visible on the screen within your Excel program. If you have grouped sheets, then you would have more than one, and that's where the sheets, plural, would come in. All right. You also have entire workbook. If you want to print out the data from each tab within an Excel workbook file, choose entire workbook as opposed to your active sheet or sheets. Very important. But also, if you're choosing the entire workbook, you want to make sure that before you come to this print dialog, you've already formatted each tab, each worksheet page to print correctly with the correct orientation, the correct page break settings, and so forth. Alternatively, if you just want to print a selection of your sheet, in other words, I would have maybe highlighted a range before I came into this print dialog, I can then say to print the selection. All right. In most cases, again, you're going to print either active sheets or entire workbook. Ignore print areas. Some Excel workbooks or worksheets have certain areas or ranges designated as print areas, which means that those will print to the exclusion of other non-print areas. If that's the case, and taking a look in the page break preview will let you know that, you can check off this box. Once again, under most cases, you'd choose active sheet or sheets or entire workbook, depending upon if you need the currently opened worksheet tab, or entire workbook if you want all the tabs to print out. Again, make sure you check your print preview for each of your pages and also the page break preview so you know what your printable and non-printable areas will be in your end result. Once you're happy with your settings, click on OK, and as long as you're connected to your printer and your printer is turned on, you can pick up your output at the printer.